At first, I was not looking forward to tying the knot with an Amagami sister. From what Matthew the Prep had been telling me about this series, he just saw this as a generic harem rom-com anime with shrine maidens as its main gimmick, similar to what our thoughts on Runes ended up being. For me, I was thinking that this was just going to be another anime that was going to be excessive with its fan service, similar to what I thought of Rent-a-Girlfriend, which, for those who are just joining me, you know what my thoughts were on that dumpster fire of a show if you watched that review. And on the surface of things, that was kind of what I thought that Amagami sister was going to be, with the concept of the show revolving around this male character basically being stuck in a position of living at this shrine with 3 other girls. The 2 of them in particular seem to have a massive crush on him, while the 3rd one, not so much. And this brought in some red flags. So one day, after I got done grocery shopping with my mom and getting into a watch along with Matthew the Prep on this show, I was actually pleasantly surprised with this one for the most part. Because getting my thoughts on this show out of the way real quick, tying the knot with an Amagami sister on one hand is surprisingly good, but on the other hand, this show is in the exact same category as something like Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends or Kappa Mikey, shows that I could see some people liking and other people not liking, because with every good part that this show provides, there's also a bit of annoyance that comes along with it. So, like I stated just a second ago, this show revolves around a high school student named Uryu. He basically gets tricked into living at the shrine, which he wanted to stay at so he could study in order to get into Kyoto University's medical school. But much to his surprise, he also ends up having to live with 3 other shrine maidens named Yai, Yuna, and Asahi. One of them is 3 years older than him, one of them is the exact same age as him, and one is 3 years younger than him. But as the series goes on, Uryu ends up developing a lot more feelings for them than he thinks, in spite of the ways that Uryu is treated in this show. So to begin this review, I'm going to start off with discussing the thing that was a bit worrying going into this one, and that is its fan service. So, back during the Rent-a-Girlfriend review, I pointed out that fan service is not inherently a problem as long as it's used sparingly and not excessive, which, yeah. In Rent-a-Girlfriend, they did it so much that it no longer comes across as endearing, but rather, it comes across as cringe-inducing, basically being what fan service anime gets stereotyped as, where it thinks that being for mature audiences means that it could get away with doing it all the time, despite the fact that fan service is like candy. If you're given too much of it, it will leave you feeling sick. And while watching that show, me and Matthew the Prep's brains felt like they were about to throw up because it barely gave its audience a break to breathe. Well, in Amagami Sister, it's actually a lot more tame than you'd expect. They do still use it pretty often, given that a running gag throughout this show is that Uryu gets nosebleeds that are out of his control, which is a staple in any anime, but the show keeps it at a pretty tame level most of the time, and that might be because of the fact that, well, that's not what this show is even setting out to do. The show is trying to put all of its focus on the shrine, the insight of each of the characters throughout the show, and showing how much that these girls really do care about Uryu, and how deep down he does care about them as well. No, there are other issues that this show created for itself that I'll be going into in just a little bit. Needless to say, the show feels pretty lopsided in terms of its content. You know how I described the earlier episodes of Primos as starting off pretty rough, but the quality suddenly changes to make up for the rest of the episode? That's kind of what this show does most of the time. And this also applies to the characters, to be honest, specifically the Shrine Maidens. One of them I like, one of them I dislike, and one I feel in the middle on. Yai is my favorite of the 3 because of how tragic that she is as a character, where for most of her childhood, she's been discouraged from making her own decisions. That's until Uryu came into her life to help her, and as a result of this, she was disowned by her mother when she said that she wanted to make her own decisions, and then she went to the shrine where she grew up. But in spite of this, you could see the long-lasting effects of what this did to Yai, where she often has a lack of agency, which results in her having a hard time making decisions for herself. And when you do take away a lot of the annoying and frustrating aspects of this show, there are a lot of things to appreciate, such as the heart of the show, where deep down, you could see that Uryu really does care about the Shrine Maidens, and I do like the festival arc where they end up successfully saving the shrine. But unfortunately, just like what I did during my review of Eek the Cat, the rest of this review is going to be spent going over the problems that this show had. The first problem is that the first couple of episodes are rough, and I mean really, really rough. Like, it's basically in the exact same category as Eek the Cat and Primos, where I could see someone going into the show and writing it off because of how this show started out, because it started off very badly. Now, I know that throughout this review, I've been pointing out how this show, like Rent-A-Girlfriend, basically has a male character being surrounded by other women, basically making the show into a love triangle series. But there's actually one show that this reminded me more of, and that is The Loud House, which also had a male character living under the same roof as a bunch of other female characters, only in this case, the male character is a lot older and he has a no-nonsense personality. Also, the male character is not related to any of these female characters, but like The Loud House, this show has a major problem with how it treats the male character in particular. I really don't like how this show treats Uryu a lot of the time. The problem is not so much the fact that he gets beaten around like Lincoln is, or that the show is saying that men are inferior to women. The problem is the way that these girls treat Uryu verbally. Play a drinking game for how many times that these girls basically label Uryu as either a pervert or a narcissist. Actually, no, don't do that, because they do this so many times in the show that you'd basically pass out. Them doing this as many times as they do in this show really bother me for two specific reasons. One, Uryu is anything but a narcissist in the show. I mean, I personally like to refer to him as a no-nonsense kind of guy, given that he wanted to move to the shrine specifically so he could study to get into medical school, and he almost never smiles in the show. But narcissism is not the word to describe him, because the definition of narcissism is someone who talks highly of themselves, such as saying that they were someone's best editor or constantly praising themselves. I mean, them saying that Uryu is a narcissist would have some ground to stand on if they actually gave Uryu narcissistic tendencies, like having him act smug, which they do use in some episodes, but like, those are only a few sequences and that's it. That's not enough to say that he's a narcissist. But that second thing, them labeling Uryu a pervert, is what bothers me the most. Being someone who is a guy myself, this running gag can go jump off a cliff for all I care, because it enforces a very harmful stereotype that I am going to go on a rant about for a little bit. You know how a lot of TV shows, movies, or even commercials like to make the claim that if someone is a guy, that means that all they want to think about is doing the deed with another woman?
I wonder how much money he makes. I wonder if he loves his mother. I wonder if he'll lose his hair. I wonder if he wants kids. I wonder if he's the one.
I want to sleep with her, 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 I want to sleep with her. I want her Pepsi Max, I want her Pepsi Max, I want her Pepsi Max.
Not a chance.
Dang! Wait, for which one?
That's the best way I could describe Amagami sister. In nearly every single episode, it's just, oh my, Uryu, you are so romantic. Or even, ag, you are such a pervert, a narcissist. This is how Uryu is treated throughout the show constantly. I don't think I need to explain why this is such a problem, do I? Now, admittedly, Amagami sister is not the worst example of a piece of media doing this. Family Guy's take on this is a lot worse. But these moments in this show really is a sign with how conflicted you might be with this show, because I don't know if this show realizes this, but not all guys are into doing the deed with women 100% of the time, and even if they are, they'd be a rare minority. And there are some who might be into this kind of stuff, but they keep it to themselves. And of course, someone being a virgin or asexual can also be a factor. So the show basically making up the assumption that Uryu is into this kind of stuff is kind of invasive, if I'm being completely honest. For all we know, Uryu does like them, and them constantly sticking their nose into things is not exactly making him want to come out about how he feels about them. Especially with Yuna. Throughout the entire series, she is constantly acting like the harsh tsundere archetype, specifically when she sees Uryu doing something with Yae and Asahi. Despite the fact that Uryu tries to tell her that it's not what it looks like, she beats him up anyway. And do you want to know why Yuna, as well as Yae and Asahi, think that Uryu is a pervert? Oh, that's an easy one. It's because of a sequence in the first episode where all three of them open the door to the changing room while they're still in their underwear, which causes Uryu to get a nosebleed, but that was not Uryu Uryu's fault at all. It was their fault for opening the door. And allow me to ask this particular question. What woman just decides to open the door to any room while they're still in their underwear? I mean, in the show's context, they literally live with the guy, which is their grandpa and also the head priest of the shrine. Do they just do this with him as well? If so, then that doesn't make Uryu a pervert by the show's own logic. Realistically, how this scene should have played out is that they apologize to Uryu for the awkward situation, but instead, they decide to hold this one incident over his head, depending on which one of the sisters it is. Yuna, because of course she would, and Yae and Asahi because they constantly feel the need to tease him about either having corn or having romantic feelings towards either one of them. And remember when I said just a little bit ago that the Shrine Sisters are a bit lopsided in terms of how I feel about them? Yae is the best of the three. Asahi, I feel a little indifferent about because there are some times in the show where she is a decent character, but other times she can be pretty frustrating to deal with, basically lying about doing the deed with Uryu, causing Yae and Yuna to get mad. But good god, I really don't like Yuna in this show. All of those "Uryu is a pervert because one of the sisters took something the wrong way" jokes are primarily started and caused by her in specific. And it is frustrating every single time that it comes up. And she just comes across as extremely ungrateful most of the time. And she also snaps at Uryu for things that weren't even his fault in the first place. Take for instance, in one episode, Yuna falls into a deep depression, or as Asahi puts it, depression mode. Yuna was about to go into the water, and to be honest, I don't know what she was about to do there, either going for a swim or unaliving herself, and Uryu is left on his own to save her, leading to him accidentally grabbing her chest as a result, snapping at him in the process, despite the fact that you were literally about to do something to yourself, and this is how you repay him? She also gets mad at him because he got accepted into the same school as her, which is an all-girls school, by the way, despite the fact that the head priest of the shrine was the one who got him into the school, getting up to the point where she literally threatens him to not talk to her during school hours. And bear in mind, all of this is either during, before, or after the arc where Uryu puts together a crowdfunding campaign to get more people to visit the shrine. And this is how they repay him? I mean, in all fairness, during the final arc of the show, where Uryu's childhood friend, Shirahi, makes a wish to have Uryu never meet the Shrine Maidens at all, he gets so desperate to the point where he rants to the Shrine Maidens about how he came from another timeline, showing that he does deep down care about them, though to be completely honest, this arc was kind of pointless because as soon as Uryu gets back to his regular timeline, things return back to the status quo as if nothing changed at all. The Shrine Maidens still continue to call him a pervert. And while Yae and Asahi are far more fair to Uryu than Yuna is, they're not helping with the treatment towards him because they constantly feel the need to tease Uryu about him being into women because of one mistake that was their fault in the first place. And it honestly makes me feel incredibly sorry for Uryu, especially considering the things that he does for them, including Yae, whom he saved from an incredibly abusive and controlling family who was raising her to be a mindless robot. Though, like with Oban Star Racers or Kappa Mikey, I am willing to give this show credit where it's due, that maybe the show would have developed them a lot better if the show gave them more screen time, or commit to the idea that Uryu would be with one of them. Maybe the series is on hiatus at the moment, considering the fact that by the time that this show supposedly ended, the manga was still ongoing until August of 2025, and well, the final few episodes of this show are not able to do that because it basically turns into the It's a Wonderful Life story, showing us an alternate timeline of what it would have been like had Uryu not met the Shrine Sisters at all, basically taking our focus away from the Shrine Sisters and erasing all of the development that they went through with Uryu in order to put all of its focus on Shirahi. You know, that one incidental character that we've seen appear only a few times throughout the series. She decides to make a wish that Uryu never met the Shrine Maidens because she wants to be with him, so as a result, the Shrine Maidens are just an afterthought for the last few episodes of the series. In other words, this show truly does feel unfinished, but according to Wikipedia, the series is over. But then again, Fairly Odd Parents: A New Wish was confirmed to be cancelled a few months ago, only for it to then be confirmed to just be on hiatus a few weeks ago by the time that this is being scripted or coming out, especially since again, the manga was still ongoing when the show was canceled, and I don't know if the manga's ending matches the ending of this show or not. So if it does get greenlit for a season 2, I might have to make a part 2 where I talk about that. The only reason I am making this a Sean's Network Reviews episode and not a Sean's Thoughts episode is because of the fact that that series is only for shows that are still running. This show is apparently canceled / on hiatus for the time being. But yeah, in spite of the fatal issues that I do have with this show, I really do like it a lot. Some moments like the revelation that Yai was saved by Uryu and the general heart of the series does make all of the problems worth it in the end. Though, while the finale didn't really feel satisfying as a finale, this finale is definitely not Kappa Mikey's The Wizard of Ozu or the Runes finale levels of bad, at the very least. And one thing that I absolutely adore about this show is the first theme song. It's so beautiful. It's right up there with Oshinoko's first theme song and the Anne Shirley 2025 theme song as one of the best anime themes in a series that I reviewed for Sean's Network Reviews. The singer went extremely hard on this song, and I just love the perspective and colors on it, especially on the ending shot where the Shrine Maidens are laying on the ground with the picture of them and Uryu doing a group photo with this very beautiful shade of orange. It's such a beautiful theme song. But other than that, with this show having all of the heart attached to it, this would have been an 8 out of 10, but with the issues attached, it's a 7 out of 10. And with that, the first series in the second poll that Matthew the Prep made is reviewed. Though, it'll probably be a little bit before we get to the next show, since I plan on doing a script for a review on Chowder, as well as a review on Amphibia in the Owl House. And I do still need to finish watching Ben 10 2017, despite still being on Season 3, and we'll be close to getting to Season 2 of Sean's Network Reviews as a result. So, while tying the knot with an Amagami sister is not the best anime I reviewed so far, it is miles better than the last anime that was reviewed.
Everything